If you can't control your emotions, people will control you. Most people misunderstand emotional control. It's not about staying calm. It's about how your mind silently shapes your behavior, your relationships, and the way people respond to you without you realizing it. If you stay until the end, you'll understand the psychological patterns behind your reactions, why you repeat certain behaviors, and how your mind actually builds emotional habits in daily life. Because the real issue is not what you feel. It's what your mind does with what you feel. And most people never notice this process happening. In today's video, we are going to analyze a subtle but powerful psychological pattern. Why people slowly lose respect for you when you ignore one specific behavioral signal. This is not about dominance or manipulation. It is about perception, boundaries, and unconscious social evaluation. In psychology, respect is not demanded. It is continuously interpreted through your actions, your consistency, and the emotional signals you allow others to read from you. When those signals become unclear, inconsistent, or overly reactive, people do not consciously decide to lose respect. It happens automatically in the way they perceive your presence. This video is a space for understanding the modern human mind and emotional behavior, helping you recognize patterns behind anxiety, relationships, and internal thoughts. Stay with me until the end, because once you understand this mechanism, you will no longer see your relationships, reactions, and social dynamics the same way again. Have you ever had one of those days where nothing bad actually happened, but you still feel completely drained, like your mind has been carrying something heavy all day long? You wake up, go through your normal routine, maybe even finish your responsibilities, talk to people, scroll your phone, do everything you're supposed to do, and yet by the end of the day, there's this strange feeling inside you. Not sadness exactly, not stress in a clear form, just a kind of mental exhaustion that you can't fully explain. And the confusing part is, nothing dramatic happened. So why does your mind feel like it ran a marathon? This is where most people misunderstand their own psychology. They assume emotional fatigue only comes from big events, arguments, pressure, problems, failures. But the human brain doesn't work only on visible events. It processes something much more subtle all the time, micro-emotions. Every small interaction you had today, every message you didn't answer the way you wanted, every awkward silence, every thought you pushed aside because it wasn't important. Your brain didn't delete any of it. It stored it, processed it, and it kept running background evaluations without you noticing. That's why you can feel mentally tired even on normal days, because your mind is constantly scanning for meaning, social signals, emotional safety, and internal consistency. Even when you are not consciously thinking about something, your subconscious is still analyzing everything that happened to you. And here's where it gets more interesting. Most people don't realize that this invisible processing creates emotional weight. Not in a dramatic way, but in a silent accumulation. It builds up slowly, like small tabs open in your mind that you never fully close. One situation doesn't do much, but dozens of them throughout the day, that's where the exhaustion starts to form. And if you pay attention closely, you might notice something even more specific. This kind of fatigue often appears stronger in people who overthink, people who are socially aware, or people who constantly try to read between the lines in conversations. Because their mind is not just experiencing life, it is analyzing it while it happens. But this is only the surface of the pattern, because what your brain does with these accumulated micro-emotions is where things start to shape your behavior in ways you don't expect. What most people don't realize is that your brain is constantly replaying social situations long after they actually happened, not because you are overthinking for no reason, but because the brain is trying to regain a sense of control over uncertainty. A simple conversation at work, a short reply that felt a little cold, a message left on read, a moment where you spoke and immediately wondered if you said too much or not enough. These moments might look insignificant from the outside, but internally, your mind doesn't treat them as finished events. It reopens them, it replays them, it tries to reanalyze what happened from different angles, as if there is still something to solve. And this is where the hidden mechanism begins. The brain is not just remembering, it is testing outcomes. It asks silent questions like, did I lose status in that moment? Did I sound confident? Did they interpret me the right way? Even if you are not consciously aware of these questions, your emotional system is reacting to them. Over time, this creates a loop that most people never notice. A situation happens, the mind replays it, emotional tension is created, the brain adjusts your future behavior to avoid that same uncertainty again. And without realizing it, your personality starts to shift slightly. You might become more quiet in conversations without deciding to. You might start over-explaining yourself. You might hesitate before sending messages. You might laugh less freely or monitor your words more carefully. Not because you consciously chose to change, but because your brain learned from emotional discomfort and started adjusting your behavior to reduce it. This is where social behavior becomes deeply psychological instead of intentional. People often believe they are acting naturally, but in reality, they are reacting to accumulated emotional patterns stored from previous interactions. And here is the part most people completely miss. The brain does not distinguish between important and unimportant social moments in the way we think it does. A small awkward silence can be stored with the same emotional weight as a more significant interaction, depending on how much attention you gave it in the moment. So when these micro-experiences stack up over time, they don't just stay as memories. They start forming behavioral tendencies. You begin to predict social situations before they happen, based on past emotional discomfort. And that prediction quietly influences how you act in the present. But this is only the beginning of the deeper pattern, because once these behavioral adjustments become automatic, they start affecting something even more sensitive in human interaction: the way people perceive you without you saying anything at all. And this is where things start to show up in real life in a way most people never connect back to what is happening inside their mind. Because once your brain has gone through enough of these silent loops, the replaying, the analyzing, the emotional adjustments, your behavior begins to shift without you actively noticing it. You don't wake up one day and decide to act differently. It happens gradually, almost invisibly, through small changes in how you speak, how you react, how you pause, and even how you enter social spaces. First, it might look harmless. You hesitate a little more before speaking. You choose words more carefully. You become slightly more reserved when meeting new people. You start to observe more than you participate. On the surface, nothing feels wrong. But socially, these micro-adjustments begin to communicate something very specific. People don't just respond to what you say, they respond to the emotional energy behind how you say it. And this is why some people naturally dominate social spaces while others feel invisible, even when they are equally intelligent, equally capable, and equally experienced. It's not personality in the way most people think. It's not about being extroverted or introverted. It's about emotional signaling. When your internal system is constantly trying to avoid discomfort, when it is replaying interactions, correcting itself, predicting outcomes, it starts producing a different type of presence. You become more controlled, more cautious, more internally monitored. And while this may feel like self-awareness, externally it often reads as hesitation. In social environments, hesitation changes perception. People may not consciously notice it, but they feel it. They sense when someone is fully present versus when someone is partially inside their own head. And that subtle difference affects how they respond to you, whether they open up, whether they trust your reactions, whether they include you naturally in conversations. Over time, this creates a reinforcement cycle. The more reserved your behavior becomes, the less immediate feedback you receive from others. The less feedback you receive, the more your brain fills the gap with interpretation. And the more you interpret, the more cautious you become. It's a loop that feeds itself quietly. And what makes this even more powerful is that most people assume their social experience is determined by external factors: the people they meet, the environment they're in, the opportunities available. But a large part of it is shaped by how consistently your emotional system is broadcasting signals through your behavior. Even silence communicates something. Even a delayed response communicates something. Even how you position yourself in a group subtly influences how others categorize your presence. And once this pattern becomes stable, it starts to define how people treat you without any direct explanation. Not because they decided to exclude you, but because your behavioral signals have already created a perception framework in their mind. But the most important shift happens when you realize this is not fixed, because the same system that created this pattern is also the one that can change it, once you understand what is actually driving it beneath the surface. Your brain doesn't react to the present only, it reacts to emotional memory stored from past experiences that never fully closed. This is the layer most people never consider when they try to understand their own behavior. They think every reaction they have is about what is happening right now, in the exact moment. But in reality, the present moment is just the trigger, not the origin. When you feel nervous in a conversation, when you overthink a simple message, when you suddenly become quiet in a social situation without knowing exactly why, your brain is not starting from zero. It is pulling information from older emotional files stored inside you, sometimes from situations you don't even consciously remember in detail anymore. A small moment of rejection from the past, a time you were misunderstood, a situation where you spoke and felt ignored, a moment where you trusted someone and it didn't go the way you expected. These experiences don't disappear just because time passes. If they were never fully processed emotionally, they stay active in the background system of your mind. And what makes this even more complex is that the brain does not store these experiences as clear stories. It stores them as emotional patterns. Not words, not details, but sensations. The feeling of tension in your chest when something similar happens again. The urge to withdraw when a social situation feels uncertain. The instinct to stay quiet when attention shifts toward you. So when a new situation resembles an old emotional pattern, even in a subtle way, your brain reacts automatically. It doesn't ask if it is safe. It doesn't analyze logically first. It simply matches the current moment with past emotional data and responds based on what it learned before. That is why people often repeat the same emotional reactions in completely different environments. Different people, different places, different timing, but the same internal response. Because the pattern is not tied to the situation itself, it is tied to what that situation represents internally. And over time, this creates something deeper, emotional repetition. You don't just experience life randomly, you start reliving emotional structures from your past, over and over again, through different scenarios that feel new on the surface but familiar underneath. This is also why some reactions feel too strong for the situation. It's not about the current event being big enough to justify the emotion. It's about the accumulated weight of similar emotional signals from before. Your mind is not responding to one moment. It is responding to a pattern of moments. And the more often a pattern repeats without awareness, the stronger it becomes. Because the brain interprets repetition as confirmation. If you keep reacting the same way in similar situations, your nervous system begins to assume, this is how I should respond every time this feeling appears. So instead of breaking the pattern, the mind reinforces it. But what makes this layer even more important is that most people believe their personality is fixed, when in reality, a large part of what they call personality is actually just repeated emotional memory being activated in different contexts. And this leads to something even deeper, because once emotional memory starts shaping behavior consistently, it begins to influence not just how you feel, but how you interpret yourself in relation to other people. The moment you start observing these patterns instead of reacting automatically, your emotional behavior begins to change naturally. Not because you are forcing yourself to act differently, and not because you suddenly gained full control over your emotions, but because awareness itself interrupts the automatic cycle that has been running in the background of your mind for years. Most people live inside their reactions without realizing there is a gap between what they feel and what they do with what they feel. In that gap, the brain usually takes over. It replays old emotional memory, activates learned responses, and pushes behavior forward almost instantly. That is why so many reactions feel instant, because they are not created in the present moment, they are retrieved from past patterns. But something changes when you begin to notice the process itself. At first, it might be subtle. You catch yourself overthinking a message instead of immediately reacting to it. You notice the hesitation before speaking instead of being fully absorbed by it. You observe the feeling of withdrawal in a social situation without immediately following it. There is still emotion, still tension, still internal movement, but now there is distance between you and it. And that distance is the key difference. Because when you are inside the reaction, the emotion becomes the driver of behavior. But when you are observing the reaction, the emotion becomes information instead of instruction. It still exists, but it no longer fully defines what happens next. This doesn't remove the emotional patterns overnight. The brain doesn't erase years of conditioning just because you became aware of it once. The loops still appear. The same thoughts still return. The same emotional triggers still activate. But the way you relate to them starts to shift. Instead of asking, "Why am I like this?" the mind slowly starts to recognize, this is the pattern happening again. And that small shift changes everything in how you experience your internal world. Because identification creates intensity, but observation creates space. And in that space, something very important happens. The automatic chain reaction starts to weaken. Not because you are fighting it, but because you are no longer fully absorbed by it. The emotional signal still appears, but it loses some of its control over immediate behavior. Over time, this changes how you move through social situations, how you respond to uncertainty, and how you interpret your own internal signals. You begin to realize that many of the reactions you once believed were just who you are were actually repeated responses to familiar emotional patterns. But this is not about becoming someone completely different or eliminating emotions altogether. It is about recognizing that not every internal signal requires immediate action, and not every feeling defines a permanent truth about you. And once this understanding starts to settle, your experience of social interactions, personal thoughts, and emotional reactions becomes less about automatic repetition, and more about conscious awareness of what was previously invisible. Most people think they are in control of their emotions, but most emotional reactions are automatic patterns built over time. The real change happens when you start noticing the pattern before reacting to it. And in that small space between what you feel and what you do next, you begin to see that nothing inside you is truly random. It's all repetition, recognition, and memory trying to make sense of the present. If you made it this far, comment, "I noticed the pattern. I read it." Subscribe for more videos about psychology, behavior, and how the human mind actually works. And check the next video on screen. It goes deeper into how your thoughts silently shape your personality over time.